Here we go. Good morning, or should I say good afternoon, everybody. It is Monday, the 22nd of March, 2021. I'm with Lorien Gamaroff of Sentby, and he's just told me that it is a national holiday in South Africa, and he didn't realise. But he is here with us now. So let's just bring him on the screen and introduce him. There we go. Looking good, Lorien. Looking very good. How are you today?
Pretty good. Nice to chat to you and talk about Bitcoin.
Do you have your biscuits and coffees with you?
No, but I think I should send a kid around and rustle some up.
Well, do you know, actually, this is the first kind of... Well, I've been doing my own show. I don't know how long now. I'm on series 6. And two of my previous series have already been like... Well, I've had 2 channels deleted by YouTube. I've had episodes deleted, and so basically now I started using somebody else's YouTube profile to broadcast from, so that and I've had to go through a VPN so that I could actually even get on YouTube, even though my shows only get, well, they used to be getting sort of about 50 views. Now they're getting actually over like 100, which is quite good. And I'm doing 3 shows a day, which is first the Bitcoin bulletin charts, and then I do a bit of sort of like a comedy news in the afternoons, followed by the main show live at 5 every day, getting the content out there. But this is the first time I'm sort of like thinking, right, you know what? Let's have just a chat, because I'm so used to kind of like just doing it on my own. As in kind of like it was a challenge to start with, because I was just like, crikey, what am I going to do? Because when you don't have anyone else to talk with, you can't kind of like just go silent, because it's like radio silence. So obviously a lot of people hear me going, but I thought, you know what? I think it's about time we just kind of like got a bit of social energy together and started chatting more to people. So this is actually quite nice for me, to be honest with you. And I thought, you know what? I haven't actually kept up to date with what Sentby is doing recently. So I was hoping you'd be able to fill us in on what's going on.
Sure.
I've seen that actually. Sentby is actually. I'm just going to have a look at the Bitcoin Blocks Live to see where Sentby ranks in terms of transactions. Do you ever look at Bitcoin Blocks Live on charts?
I saw it a few weeks ago. I think we're around 15 or 14 on the list, but it's taken up with all those data apps. They should split that out into payment apps and data ledger apps and that sort of thing. We can get an idea, because D:// and what's the other one?
Yeah, and B://
Yeah. They've got millions, and so it makes everything else look puny.
Any idea what they are? I called it stealth drive, as in like D drive, stealth drive, because there was just no information on it.
Yeah, I thought it was something to do with Unwriter, because he had all the other names like that, and so I thought it had something to do with him. Although we haven't heard much from him lately. He's busy away cooking something up in his lab.
Well, I can tell you now, having just looked at the chart, you are Sentby ranks number 14, which is pretty good in terms of, I think it's transactions. So transactions last 30 days, 1,618.
Yeah, not very much, but that's the thing about Bitcoin, and also with payments. I don't think payments will ever be a driver of volume. So it'll be good to see statistics around the Bitcoin payments and other apps that are logging, and like the weather apps and that sort of thing. So I think that what Bitcoin SV wants and needs is volume. And unfortunately, as hard as I try, I don't think, and no matter how successful we become, we'll never make up millions of transactions a day that we want to see on BSV.
Well, you never know. Never say never. I've certainly got some high hopes for Sentby, and also I'm getting quite a few newbies watching my show. Can you describe to them what Sentby has done in South Africa that's unique? And by the way, I've also had another chap contacting me saying they would love what Sentby has done in South Africa to start happening in Mexico, because they've got lots of people interested in Bitcoin down in Mexico, particularly BSV, and there's just simply no way for them to get hold of it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we're working on it. I think one of the things about payments is that it's inherently local. I mean, of course, BSV is international. You can send money around the world easily, but when you are thinking about payments, in-store payments, e-commerce payments, even, there's that local element, and when you do something like that, you have to have the right partners, and you have to have the discussions, and then you've got to make sure you're following all the rules and compliance and regulations and stuff. So even though we are growing globally, our in-app value-added services, the things that people can buy like Uber and that sort of thing, it has to be a local integration with a local partner. So we've now been really successful here in South Africa because this is the country we focused on, and we managed to now get Bitcoin into every supermarket in the country, and also we've bundled our Centbee wallet, which is a Bitcoin only, BSV only wallet, with services where you can buy mobile data and airtime and electricity and Uber and a whole lot of other things. So that's really cool in South Africa. If you're in South Africa, you can actually now live on BSV. You can get paid in it, and you can buy your groceries and everything with Centbee wallet. But now to replicate that success in a different country, we have to go there, and we have to now find the right partner there and make sure that the local rules around crypto are allow us to do it. So it's quite difficult to eat the world. When you are thinking about payments, you have to take one bite at a time. And but we're doing great. So South Africa is covered. Our next country we're moving into now is Mozambique, which is next door.
Wow.
And so it's a steady process, and we're getting there. Mexico, certainly, those emerging economies where there's lots of young people who don't have bank apps and credit cards. That's what we really like. We think that young people are going to like Bitcoin. In fact, our marketing effort now and everything that we do now is focused on that youth market from about 16 to 25-year-olds. And, they like Centbee because it enables their lifestyle. That's what they want. They want something that they can use where if they want to get a pizza off Uber Eats, they don't have to ask a parent. Or if they want to top up the data on their phone, if they don't have a contract, then they can do so easily with BSV. So, youngsters, they're getting BSV on their Centbee wallets, and now they can go out on a weekend, on a Friday night. They can get their Uber to wherever they're going. They can get a pizza on the way there. They can top up their data. They can watch network TV that we've got here. So there's a lot of things that they can do now with Centbee, and that really, to me, is how we're going to get Bitcoin into the hands of the masses. We need to give them a way to spend it, to use it. There's a very, very small market of people out there who want to invest, although it's unfortunately larger than we would like, especially when it comes to BTC and, guys like Elon Musk making everybody get FOMO. And so that's a huge problem. But apart from that, that mania, that investment mania, there are people out there who want us to be able to buy things and spend things, and Centbee is just a perfect way to do that. So we'll get to Mexico. Who knows? It might come sooner rather than later. We're not only focused on countries around us, although it's easier because we know how the local culture and also the local rules and regulators, they know us. Regulations we follow, so it's a lot easier. But going to a place like Mexico, if we can find a partner there who can facilitate crypto payments, maybe in a local exchange, then that works great for us. So keep your eye open. We might be there.
Well, also, I mean, what Elon Musk has shows he has a preference for coins with animals, dogs, Dogecoin. Who knows? Pitch him Centbee. Say, look, more colourful than dogs. That might not have might not have as much personality as a dog, but still on the animal kind of side of things. So what's in terms of? I mean, it's when I'm hearing you talking about South Africa there, with people actually being able to use it and spend and top up their phones and all that. What's the situation with the national currency then? Is it the rand that you have down in South Africa? So is
Yes.
there just not the monetary system set up for the rand for them to be able to do those things?
No, no. South Africa is pretty advanced when it comes to banking and finance. We've got mobile banking and um, bank branch. I mean, we've got everything we could have here. So that's not the problem. It's not like we're in some African country that's got no infrastructure and anything like that. We're pretty first world here. But in saying that, it doesn't mean that teenagers and young adults have credit cards. They live and work with cash, and even
So
those that do, if you can give them a more convenient way of spending, having a mobile app. In fact, we've got a few mobile app payment companies here that where you can load your credit card into the app, and then you can go to certain retailers and scan a QR code. So those services already exist, but BSV just has that. You don't have to be in a market somebody who is completely revolutionary and provides something that nobody else can, and you're the monopoly to succeed. That doesn't have to be how it is. If you can provide an experience that is slightly better than everybody else, or a cost structure that's cheaper, slightly cheaper, or something that's more fun, then you've got a chance. And when I look at these bank apps and that, they feel like bank apps. They're boring, and even I hate them and sometimes find them difficult to work with. And I've been building mobile apps and software for 25 years and worked in banks, and so when I find it difficult to use those things and horrid, then you can just tell. It doesn't have to be that way. So that's kind of our mission. It's to try and make Bitcoin just that bit nicer, that bit more convenient, bit cheaper. And I think that's how we'll do it. We'll slowly pick up, especially the youth. The youth are great because they rapidly go from teenagers when they're at home and independent into young adults. And if you can get the teenagers, those 16-year-olds, because that's what I really like, those 16, 17, 18, they're still at home, then that's great. You can wait 3 years and they become adults, and then they've changed their habits. So this is a long game. We slowly are taking over, but we're not competing with a magic bullet, a silver bullet. We have to compete with as everyone else competes, trying to provide a better service at a lower cost, that's more fun. And if we can do that, then, it doesn't matter if there's a whole infrastructure here that people can already use. That's not the fight. We just want to compete as everyone else does. Slightly better, slightly cheaper.
And I've just brought up a picture on the screen of you sat right in between CSW and Roger Ver, like holding a glass of wine, like the three amigos. I presume maybe did you part ways with Roger because his sales tactic was basically to encourage people to smoke crack in their own homes, which is not what you really want from 16, 17-year-olds.
Yeah, well, look, I don't have anything against Roger. I think his heart is in the right place. It always has been. He's somebody who really doesn't like the system. And look, I'm not an anarchist at all. I don't follow that way of thinking. Although I don't like the systems as they are, especially when it comes to money. I like sound money. And I don't think fiat currency is all that, and I think that'll end badly. But Roger, I've always appreciated him. He's always done his best. He's always been, true to his philosophy, which at the end of the day is grounded in good things. He wants the best for the world, and he sees injustices in the world, and he wants to get rid of them. I think he's just more of a revolutionary. He's quite happy to create a system that can destroy the man. And I follow Friedrich Hayek's approach, which is you want to change the system but quietly and without anyone noticing until it's too late to stop.
Yes.
So I see where he's coming from, and I still appreciate Roger. I think he's a good guy.
But encouraging people to smoke crack in their own homes, to me,
Well,
obviously
encouraging them. And I don't think it's fair to say he's encouraging it. He's just saying if that's what you want to do. Not that I think crack is good. I mean, but I'm not a drug prohibitionist. If people want to, do drugs, if they're not hurting anybody, I mean, I'm not advocating for it, of course. I mean, I've got kids, and I don't want them to get hooked on that sort of thing. So I don't like it. But I'm not a prohibitionist. I think that drug wars and that have caused far more harm than if we just let everybody, deal with it and make drug addiction a social problem that communities and families and charities and welfare groups, private ones, can figure out. So, I don't think it's fair to say he's advocating for crack smoking, but he's just advocating for, a libertarian view on things, which is just protect my freedoms and get out of my way. And I appreciate that.
But surely there's better things to talk about than smoking crack in your own home.
Yes, exactly.
Like solving world problems.
Yes. No, I agree. You shouldn't come out and say that. But you can see where he's coming from. He's saying if that's what you want to do and it makes you happy and you're not hurting anybody, well, who am I to judge and who am I to stop you, or who is anybody to stop you? So I think to look at it from that point of view, I think he's just using that as trying to make an example, but it's a bad one, and we don't want that.
One.
Yes,
it's a
terrible
example.
one. It's terrible. But you can see where he's coming from.
Well, you can see where he's coming from if you are an intelligent person. So, like you being an intelligent person, can say, look, I can see where you're coming from and what he means. I just think he's expressing it in a rather foolish way,
Right.
Whereas somebody else who doesn't have your level of intellect would just hear Roger talking about smoking crack in their own home and just go, whoa, yeah, that's a great idea.
Sure, that's right.
That's why we're in for B Crash.
Yes. No, when you have a voice, a loud voice with lots of followers, you do have to be a bit more careful about what you say. But hey, I'm not about to censor anybody, and if that's his choice to speak out on speak about those things. What's important is our own families and the values we instill in them, and when people do speak like that, we hope that our kids and our loved ones have the right grounding and the right values.
Yeah, but what if your kid turns around and goes, Daddy, what's crack?
Well, I'll tell him.
All right. Well, but I mean, what if he looks at Roger and goes, oh, well, everybody knows Roger there, and loads of people seem to like him, and he hasn't got a problem with smoking crack in my own home. Oh, I might give that a go.
Yeah. Well, again, that becomes a family issue and a social, that's your social structures and all that. That's what we need to build. Instead of silencing voices, we need to, work on our values.
Yeah. Did you ever when the BCH and sort of Bitcoin split during the hash war? Did Roger ever contact you, or did he contact him, or was he sort of because obviously we know that he was colluding with the exchanges and stuff, but did he ever sort of like contact people like you and say, look, where do you stand on this?
No, I think I've always been very dogmatic about a stable protocol, and so I don't think Centby was ever, I don't think he thought of Centby as an ally in that, so he continued on that. But the stable protocol has caused a lot of for me rifts with people that I've known for many years, because I've been involved with Bitcoin for 10 years now, and
Wow.
and all the people that I knew and the sort of people that I would talk to, and we went our different ways, and I find myself quite alone actually nowadays. But for some people like yourselves and the BSV community, it's kind of small, going to become a lot smaller, this little community. But we're prevailing, and eventually everyone else will come around.
Yeah, well, do you know what? I've actually found since the sort of I call it Bitcoin. I don't ever call it like Bitcoin SV. It's just Bitcoin. Yeah, it is literally just Bitcoin. It's a peer-to-peer electronic cash system that follows the protocol. Why should I call it anything else? But right. I've actually found that I've had more fun and more laughs with the, I suppose, society that has been created, just because the quality of the people in it, the concentration of the quality of the people is fantastic. Like I genuinely love it. I don't think there's ever been a concentration of such gifted people that I've ever been involved in. Not to this size, anyway. Even though it's obviously comparatively small when you compare it to all the shitcoiners in, like Coolcoin and Bcrash and all that. The fact is, in terms of comparatively to a friendship group, it's absolutely massive. It's global, it's all over the world, and it's intellectual people who actually understand, that can see probably more than 3 steps in front of, explanations that actually understand this thing, and therefore they're building it and using it. And it's not just hot air. It's not just everybody going, banging on drums and blowing whistles and saying, store of value, bollocks, all this kind of stuff. So I actually, for me personally, I can really feel kind of the groundswell, as it were, because BSV has sucked all of the intelligence, out from the shitcoiners. Like literally, the disparity between the camps is massive. So that kind of gives me confidence, and also just in terms of just the social connections. Because I used to, I still do, part of my main job is I run just a small property management company. But my life was kind of like in a fishbowl until I got into Bitcoin. And I remember thinking to myself, because my life basically existed between my office, the local supermarket, Wilco's, and then back again. I was just like, how am I going to get out into this big world? There must be something going on out there. How am I going to meet anybody else? And it was really Bitcoin that sort of opened the door for me. And luckily, it's kind of opened the door. And now it's led to this kind of concentration of people. It's just I want to be involved with this group. This is fantastic. It gives me faith back in humanity.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yes, well, we've decided, we've all kind of aggregated and congregated around this simple idea around what Bitcoin should be, and we're not being distracted by prices and anarchy. So we have all found a common idea or ideology that that we all subscribe to, and so we found our tribe, and that's really great. But I think we're still all, we're still diverse people with different ideas, and I find that even when it comes to politics and that sort of thing, when those discussions come up, we find those differences, and that's just how it is. The world is full of different people, and you might find a friend or somebody that is quite closely aligned to your way of thinking and your ideology, but there could be something that you disagree on, and to save the relationship, you sort of disagree, agree to disagree, and let it continue. And that's also I think how it's been. There's people that are on the BTC side and BCH that I still really like and enjoy, even though we don't agree on what Bitcoin should be. So you decide to set that aside and focus on the things that you can come together on. And it's like your family. There's always members of your family that drive you nuts, but you choose to forgive them just so you can keep the family going. And it's kind of been like that with Bitcoin. But certainly, BSV, as we've sort of hardened towards Satoshi's vision, there have been people who've fallen off, and that might have been causing a lot of conflict, trying to distract us away from that vision. But now that we have Satoshi's vision in play, and as Craig carries on with his podcasts and his writings, we start understanding more about what he intended, and we understand his vision. And I think what's also unique about the BSV community is that we all accept Craig as Satoshi, and we can now put aside all the craziness that has come along with that, and we can start listening to him quietly and carefully and hear what he has to say. And it is wildly different from what BTC and BCH want out of Bitcoin. So those of us who've been on that bandwagon, I must admit, when I was first involved with Bitcoin, I also kind of thought like that. I was against central banks and I wanted to bring them down, so I must admit I was like that too. But now that I understand more about why Craig created Bitcoin and what he intended it to be, I've also sort of grown up a little bit, and my thinking's become a bit more sophisticated and not so crazy and wild and revolutionary. It's a mature way of thinking about Bitcoin and the world. Where you realize there are different sorts of revolutions. You can have those wild, bloody revolutions that burning and looting and killing and mayhem. I mean, that you can bring about a revolution that way. But you can also, bring about a revolution quietly, culturally, where you change ways people think and sometimes in a bad way. I'm not a Marxist, and I see that the world is kind of culturally, going more Marxist, and that's been a very quiet revolution that's been happening over decades. And so I'm not a fan of that, but it just shows you the power of calm, quiet, slowly spreading ideas, and you can do a lot that way. And Bitcoin is kind of like that. It's that sort of Newtonian fluid. You can try and whack it hard, but it won't budge, and you have to go a little bit slower into it. And it's the same way of bringing Bitcoin to the world. You can't throw it at people and smash them with it. You have to slowly let it ooze into their lives, and eventually they start appreciating it. And that's not just from a user perspective, of course. That's from the kind of government regulatory stuff as well.
And so what do you think on Craig's latest U-turn from initially saying that he was going to crush BTC and wipe it off the face of the planet to now saying that it's too big to really, there's too many pawns in the game that just would have been devastated by it?
Yeah, no, I think we all wanted to see that. That would have been great. Just finish it all, just set fire to everything, and let the phoenix rise from the ashes. So I think all of us on the BSV side would like to see that. But again, it just speaks to the whole idea of being calm and sensible about these things. And it wouldn't do right now, especially for Bitcoin, BTC, to have a tremendous collapse. I mean, you can just imagine all the naive people out there. I mean, I'm sure we even have family members and friends who are invested in BTC, and we don't want to see them hurt. It would be nice if it was a bit more of an orderly exit out of those crypto coins and into BSV. So I think maybe Craig also has matured over that time, and his anger and his passion to destroy all the naysayers, that's waned, and I think he's thinking carefully about things, and that's okay. It's not going to, we don't need there to be fire and brimstone to bring about this Bitcoin revolution. I think we just need us, all of us, just carrying on doing what we're doing, building and talking about things and educating people, and our time will come, and all we have to do is be patient, and I think eventually we'll get to that point. It won't be cataclysmic in the way we want, where all our enemies are vanquished, and
it might be. I think when the dominoes start to fall,
yes,
like it's gonna be huge. But luckily, I think when the dominoes start to fall, it will actually be due to genuine understanding, and also legal grounds and and precedents that have been set, rather than manipulation. So it's I think it could be enormous, But again, like all the criminals who have caused this in the first place, they're going to be out because they know what they've done is wrong. So therefore, when the cracks start to appear, they're going to be the first ones to get out. It's all the little people that are going to get hurt. But at least fingers won't be pointed at Craig. They're actually going to be pointed at the cracks, the real cracks. And it's like, hold on a minute, who caused this? What's all this SegWit all about? That was never in the white paper. SegWit designed to hold all the users and developers on the network to account, and then they were segregated, which meant that Blockstream now control it. And look at that, they're funded by MasterCard. Hold on a minute,
Yeah, well, there's nowhere to hide. If those exchanges that are doing anything illegal, if there's dodgy stuff happening at Tether or CZ Binance, it's they're not going to be able to hide. The law eventually will catch up, and everything's on the blockchain, and there have been public figures punting, so it's they're not going to hide. What's more important is that, like you say, the little people. Yeah, they'll try. They can run. I mean, they caught up with McAfee. So
yes, they did.
So we just hope that the little people do manage to exit. But history tells us that that's not normally how it is. I think there's going to be pain coming, just as long as you tell as many people as possible to protect themselves.
Yeah, I'm doing my bit actually. But talking about Craig tanking the market, did you actually see the BTC that was lined up, ready to do it?
No, what was there? A big short?
There was 1.4 million BTC lined up, ready to tank the market. 1.4 million, which is about 56 billion. But he literally would have wiped it off the face of the planet. Yeah. So, in fact, to be honest with you, I've got a little bit of a confession to make. I saw it and wrote to him and pleaded with him to change his mind. Just because I was just like, oh my God, like he is going to do this. Like, it's just not clever, in the long run. Because, I mean, personally, I think, someone like Craig to have created what he's done, and being the sort of figurehead, even though he doesn't like really being the figurehead, kind of like he is really. I mean, he's so knowledgeable about everything. I was just like, that's. Yeah, I think I'm much more comfortable with the way things are now, knowing that he seems to have kind of like said to himself, actually, yeah, you know what, let's just kind of like do this maturely, and properly, so that all those who deserve to be exposed for what they've done actually, get what they deserve. Everybody can see it, rather than kind of like being the boogeyman that, crushed BTC. Because, I mean, even now, like 99% of the world still think that BTC is Bitcoin because they have no idea, and they believe all this store of value digital gold crap. Yeah. So yeah, that's my little bit of confession. So I'm glad that you think it's also a good idea that it didn't happen. Just so I was feeling a little bit guilty because everyone else is going, oh, he's not going to tank the market, and I was like, actually, that's a good thing, to be honest with you.
It is. We want people to we don't want the Bitcoin brand to be tainted, and if BTC goes down in flames, it's Bitcoin going down in flames as far as everyone is concerned. And we've really got a history of people who have had experience with Bitcoin being burned in previous pumps and dumps. So we really don't want the heat. We want to try and let people exit as quickly as possible. And
what do you say to these kind of like family members or other people that in I suppose in the cryptocurrency space? I've just got a picture of here with you having the breakfast with Vitalik. Because I realise now these other coins, they are fundamentally absolutely flawed. They have no value in them whatsoever. They will literally go to zero. So it was when I'm listening to their what I don't know what they think is logic. Have you ever tried to actually rationalise with them and say, look, it doesn't work because of X, Y, and Z, fundamentally and technically?
Yes, but I think the idea of the mindset is that it's a technology project, and those are just problems that are yet unsolved, and they probably will have solutions. I think the fact that there are so many developers and so many little little startups and that, working on Ether. Sorry, we've got loud birds here flying over Africa. They people just think of it as unsolved problem, and as long as there are some smart people working on it and developing on it, eventually those problems will be, overcome. And in fact, that's very much an Andreas Antonopoulos philosophy. He has those famous talk where he talks about scaling the internet, and how everybody thought the internet wouldn't scale, and then something happened, and then a new innovation, and then it scaled, and then it got clogged up again, and people thought that would be the end. So, and then it changed. So it's just that philosophy of, there's always a solution. Technology can solve anything. And remember, that is exactly how the BTC crowd think. They are building a software project, and it's not about a stable protocol or anything like that. For them, it's technology, and they're more than just cypherpunks. They're sort of techno somethings. They think that technology can save everything and provide solutions. So it's a difficult one, to try and convince somebody that something will never scale. You have to almost say, well, wait and see, because that's kind of the only thing you can say. Given history, cars have scaled, the internet has scaled, broadband, phone technology. I mean, everything's scaled eventually. So it's a hard sales pitch. I think that the one that you should stick on is the idea of a stable protocol, because that is how the internet developed, and that's the nature of protocol. You create something that is a fixed, stable foundation that other people can build upon. And unfortunately, the BTC crowd they've just thrown that idea out the window, where it's not about building on top of Bitcoin. It's the value of Bitcoin is Bitcoin itself, not Bitcoin as a technology infrastructure layer that you can now build the next era of applications and businesses. For them, it's about the token itself. That's it. For them, scarce tokens are the be all and end all. And if we can have a
number go up,
yeah, as long as the number goes up. It doesn't matter about transaction volumes, because it is gold, and gold sits in vaults. And as long as you've got a way to store your gold with your private key, you can, that's it. That's the be all and end all. So, there's a lot of valid arguments when it comes to gold, being a store of value, and it being scarce, and it not really being used in industry, although that's not really true. People do like gold for things like jewelry. I mean, if you just want to understand BTC, you really should just follow Peter Schiff. Peter Schiff nails it. I listen to him every day, and he understands BTC like nobody else. It's amazing. People think he doesn't understand Bitcoin. He doesn't understand Bitcoin. Yeah. He has no idea about Bitcoin, but he certainly understands BTC. And everything that BTC are pushing, that digital token store of value thing, it's all nonsense. But it doesn't need to scale. It doesn't need to be stable. So again, those arguments will just bounce off those people. So it's almost impossible. The only way you can change their minds one day is when they realize they're just holding ash in their hands.
Yep. And I have to. I mean, also with this scarcity make number go up. I mean, there's a limit. Because obviously it's the block reward that economically sustain the miners. That mine BTC. The next block reward halving is 3.12. And then it goes down to what's this going to be like 1.7, and then it's just there is just not going to be enough Bitcoin to economically sustain those who maintain the network. I can't understand how they can't see this. So the only logical conclusion I can come to is that they are stupid.
Well, it's a denial, I suppose. It's a problem in the future that they think will be solved by other things. But of course, It makes no sense. I mean, how can you have a network with that amount of hash power, where there's very few transactions, high value, high cost transactions. I mean, you're right. It's a denial. They're not thinking clearly. Makes no sense.
Maybe they've just not. I think they just maybe haven't thought at all, like because they just don't. They can't see that far ahead, as to what's going to happen. Or maybe they're just, like you said, sitting there with their fingers crossed, thinking that eventually it's going to be solved. But I mean, we can see that it's not. It's not going to be solved. I mean, the only reason numbers are going up at the moment, and I looked at Tether earlier this morning, and did you realise that whale alerts on Twitter have stopped reporting USDT being printed by Tether as of the 11th of March. And
I've just other accounts you can follow that talk about that. I think. What was the other one I saw? It wasn't Whale Alert. It was something else.
There's another one, a stable coin printer. I just looked at that this morning, and just a couple of days ago, Tether printed 995 million USDT. I was like, you may as well just round it up. That's $1 billion they've literally just printed a couple of days ago. And then people are wondering where the number's going up from. I can't believe that they can't see it. They print Tether, number go up. There is no utility in it whatsoever. It just baffles me. And the fact that they don't want to listen either. Or their excuse is, well, what's the difference between Tether and the Fed? Well, legally, a big difference.
Just and we have to wait to see what the all the investigations and the SEC and how that turns out. But it's amazing that Tether is still pegged, 1-to-1. I don't understand how that can happen. But that's going to be something interesting to watch.
Criminality, yeah. And I've just got this picture of you having is it breakfast with Vitalik or is it lunch? I mean, it looks like breakfast. You've got like teapots there and stuff.
Well, I was with him in Vienna. I think that's where that photo comes from. So we were there. It was an energy blockchain conference that we were both speaking at, and in those days, I was very interested in the whole linking energy, smart grid, metering to blockchain, Bitcoin. So I was at that conference talking specifically about energy and electricity and blockchain and Bitcoin and how it can work. And he, what's interesting about that was his co-founder of Ethereum, Gavin Wood, who now has Polkadot. We went to, there was a guy that is quite a very interesting guy. He's this Austrian, his name's Ed Hess. He started a small startup which is doing quite well, which is all around energy and blockchain in Europe. And
are they on Hyperledger?
No, it's Ethereum. I'm not sure how that's going, but he decided to have some Bitcoin experts come to a villa in Serbia. So we all went there, and Gavin Wood was there, and there was about 10 of us, and we just spent 5 days or 5 days at this villa talking Bitcoin and blockchain and crypto and energy and electricity, and then so we spent a lot of time just. This was quite a few years ago. I can't remember how many.
Well, actually, did you post this picture on the date that it was taken?
I must have. Is that from Twitter?
Yeah. Do you want to know what the date is?
Sure.
It's Valentine's Day 2017.
Oh, okay. Oh, it wasn't that long ago. I thought it would have been around 2015, but that's true. That would have been, yes. Okay.
Very romantic meal you and Vitalik are having there.
Yeah, and we had a few meals together and talked. I think in those days there wasn't. It felt like as much antagonism. I mean, there was only one Bitcoin in those days.
So that would so Bitcoin Cash split on the 1st of August 2017. So it was prior to that, but there still must have been a bit of argy-bargy going on, and I guess Vitalik is wearing an Ethereum T-shirt.
Yeah, no, there wasn't. No, it was. I mean, very amicable. I don't think Vitalik really has any. We didn't have any issues with Bitcoin, and remember he wanted to build Ethereum on Bitcoin, but couldn't, so he went off on his own. Look, there hasn't really been much antagonism, in all the altcoins and that for a while. I think really the antagonism has been greatest with the Bitcoin forks. People on different sides of those forks, that's where the most antagonism. I think, before Bitcoin split, Litecoin guys and the Ethereum guys, and I remember having a little thing with the Steam guys. They're all everyone was just sort of carrying on, and we all building projects, and it's not about who's going to win. It's just about this new great amazing technology that's going to change the world, and we're all busy on our own projects. That's kind of how it's always been. But I must say, the Bitcoin forks, that's when things got nasty, and so it's only been the last few years.
Well, I guess thing is though, I guess I suppose this is where most tech people don't really have a fundamental understanding of money. In that anything, because obviously with blockchain and distributed ledger technology, it's the token itself that economically sustains the network. So that token effectively has to be money. And any money that has a central point of authority, control, or influence is not money. It's effectively a token, just like fiat currency is a token, because it only services the closed economy that it was created for. Just like fiat currency is only created for the economy of the country that it's printed in. So therefore, the tokens that these altcoins have do not they don't have any value. And the reason they don't have any value is because they all have those centralized starting points, which is what I think almost nobody understands. But the way Craig was able to solve this paradox of the centralized starting point was the fact that he released the white paper on October the 31st, 2008, didn't start the network until 2 months and 4 days later. And that is effectively like having gold in the ground waiting to be discovered by someone. So he had to leave, 2 months in law, particularly in UK law, is considered a reasonable amount of time, which is why he did that plus an extra 4 days. And then what proof of work does is proof of work dilutes that central point of authority, control, and influence. Well, influence is mainly the person who started it stepping back from the network, and then him using a pseudonym, which effectively split the paper in two, because you've got the white paper written in English and then released in the Western world, and then Satoshi Nakamoto being a Japanese author, Japan being highly developed, technologically advanced, politically neutral, and obviously nobody knew who he was at the time, and then just stepping back from the project. So it's taken Craig 11 years to solve this paradox, and that's what none of these altcoins get. They're just like, we started this, and therefore, because they're thinking of money as like fiat currency. It's just printed by the central bank. Well, this is just simply printed by us. So sometimes I guess the only reason I figured this out is because I have a background in law and economics and financial services. So kind of I was able to spot this. But I thought if you're a techie or a gamer like Vitalik was, you wouldn't really give a thought to the theory of money and economics. You would just be like, I just need a smart contract that I can put on chain so that I can do X, Y, and Z, and I can swap my, computer game, weapons with other people for, and, smart contracts without any consideration for, commodities and securities, effectively. And this is, I guess maybe this is why there's so much animosity, because it can only be the Bitcoin network because it's only the Bitcoin network that solves this paradox. So maybe maybe those in charge of like Blockstream, like MasterCard and all that, they probably understand this. So they were just like, actually, we want as many altcoins as possible to detract and distract attention away from Bitcoin. But what we intentionally want is we do not want Bitcoin to succeed. So therefore, what we're going to do is point fingers and place blame and chuck as much mud at Bitcoin because that's the one that we don't want to succeed. But it can only be Bitcoin, as in like BSV, the genuine Bitcoin. There's none of these other altcoins. None of them have a chance. None of them have a chance monetarily. Which means they will not be able to economically sustain the networks. And if the networks can't be economically sustained because the tokens running them have no fundamental value, they will go to zero. They will disappear because of that fact. I mean, I wonder if do you think that would be too complicated for any of these shitcoiners to understand? I'm guessing it probably would be.
Well, I mean, remember Craig Wright. I mean, he figured something out that hasn't been figured out before. The whole economic incentives around the blockchain. So that's unique, and it's not just immediately self-evident. This is why so many of us didn't even figure this out. This idea around what Bitcoin should be, and not just as a technology project, but something that operates within a existing legal structures and commercial structures. This is something that has never really been the message around what Bitcoin was. I mean, a lot of people talk about the newspaper that was put into the first transaction about the banks being or money printing, but actually it was, as Craig told us, no, he was more trying to focus on the idea of nationalization. So bank nationalization. So all the ideas around Bitcoin have always been about decentralization. Trying to create an alternative money system that cannot be impinged upon by governments and corrupt central bankers. So not even corrupt central bankers. I mean, the nature of the system itself is a corrupting system, not that the central bankers themselves are corrupt. I know a lot of central bankers, and they think they're doing a good job and making the world a better place. But so the messaging around Bitcoin has always been about a system that is broken that we need to replace, and not a system that can now be improved. And also where it's impossible for people to hide. Hiding away, whether you are doing something legally or illegally, being able to hide just naturally attracts the wrong elements and people, who might not have done anything illegal in the past. Just because they're wearing that ring of Gyges, as Craig says, where you can now become invisible, it just naturally leads to a system that can become corrupted and fraudulent. So, those were ideas that Craig helped us understand. Before Craig came on the scene, we were just drinking the Kool-Aid. This was about a crypto that's going to change the world. It's going to be a revolution. So it's entrenched in the whole ethos around cryptocurrency. I mean, even the name, as Craig says, crypto. Bitcoin is not meant to be a cryptocurrency. It's not cryptographically, it's not encrypted, and it's not a currency. So those are difficult ideas to now wean from people. Now, Ethereum, remember, they never really intended to do that, to go out and create a currency. So they were always, being able, you could talk about Ethereum in polite society because it was just about technology. So, those guys have managed to attract a lot of smart people, to be honest. Ethereum developers and companies, they're misguided, unfortunately, and are trying to achieve something that is only achievable on BSV, and they'll eventually figure that out. But, this is just how, the whole myth around the narrative around Bitcoin and what its ends they were just wrong. And unfortunately, in the early days, a lot of people were very interested to know more about Bitcoin. And so, of course, they would follow the only accounts that were talking about Bitcoin. And that's why guys like, I guess, Tone Vays and, they became popular, and they just carried on preaching that false narrative. So it's a very difficult thing to do now. We are the black sheep, but also we're the Cassandras, where we might at least we think we're speaking the truth and we can tell the future, and yet nobody believes us. And so now we look like fools. And that was Cassandra's curse, that she could tell the future, but nobody would believe her. And I think all of us can know what that feels like to some extent, where we really believe in this. We think that we've got it right, and trying to explain it to people, and everyone kind of looking at us, askew, and it hurts. But again, it's a long game, this, and there's no such thing as getting rich overnight. And I think a lot of people who are holding BSV hope Craig will come along and say, all right, here I am, I'm Satoshi, it's indisputable, and Bitcoin, BSV is the real Bitcoin, and then everyone's going to flock into Bitcoin, and your one or two BSVs will be Lambo already. But let's sort of just focus on what we're doing. Let's carry on, and I'm convinced we'll get there. I remember when I got out of school in the 90s and started my university degree, it was in computer science, and the internet was coming along. It wasn't really commercialized so much. There were no browsers. All you could really do was surf on things like Lynx, which was just a Unix terminal, and write emails to each other. And the guys in the computer science labs, we were all excited about it and spending all night talking to each other across the world, to other students, and really felt like something was great was going on. And in those days it was the same. People were like, well, what is the internet, and why do I need it, and it's complicated and weird, and there's weird people in chat rooms, and so I don't want to get there. And it's taken 25 years to now it's in everybody's pocket. So this could be the same. Maybe you and I will be talking again in 10 years time, and I hope it doesn't take that long, but talking about adoption and the gains we're making. Who knows?
Well, I can tell you, I mean, this might put you at ease. I can tell you categorically and fundamentally, we in Bitcoin are correct. Absolutely, like without a shadow of a doubt. So. Absolutely, fundamentally, because it's, even though it's like it's theory based, like I said, it's the money that economically sustains the network, and you need money in order to make a decentralized network, because the current internet, I didn't realize this, the current internet is centralized by one secret key. So like one secret key could literally destroy the entire internet that the whole world runs on. Like it's literally, it's not safe. And that one key is protected by the what's it called? ICANN, the International Company for Assigned Names and Numbers, or something like that. And they do a key ritual every 3 months where there are seven sub key holders, or spread around the world. So effectively, it's like a proof of stake system. But the fact is, it's centralized by that one point, whereas you can only have a truly decentralized system in a capitalist system that is economically sustained by independent, competing entities. And the only way you can create competition is through economic competition. And for economic competition to take place, you need a medium of exchange. And therefore, in terms of having a medium of exchange, it has to be a commodity, as in like something that is common to everybody. And obviously, the like I said, Craig was able to dilute that central point of authority and control and influence through the proof of work process, and just letting it grow organically for a period of 11 years. And when you think about how obviously precious data is, you need those distributed, independent, companies and parties to economically sustain it. And even though they're competing, I often say to people, it's a bit like Formula One. Even though you are incentivized to win, the fact is that if you do not have any competitors to race against, there is no sport, there is no entertainment. So even though you want to beat them, you still need them there in order to, as your bread and butter, as somebody to compete against. So if you're a single, let's say if you're a single miner, like, IOHK from Cardano, they get shut down, that is all your ADA, that's all your Cardano tokens gone in an instant. So all these miners, even though they're competing, the fact is they're competing for Bitcoin. And so therefore, if that miner got shut down, if there was no one else to pick up the slack, where they like law enforcement to shut them down, they would lose all their own Bitcoin. Whereas now they luckily have these other independent competitors actually maintaining the system for them on their behalf for safety should anything happen to them. Like it's just a phenomenal system.
Remember, government has a very long arm, and they if they want to shut something down, they will. So what's important is to make sure they don't want to shut you down. So you kind of tick all their boxes, and then they'll let you live.
Yeah, it's accountability. I mean, this is why I sometimes like pulling my hair out talking to these shitcoiners, because I'm just like, look, what you've created here is a cryptocurrency that is absolutely categorically illegal, and it has no fundamental value whatsoever. It is going to zero. I don't know how else to tell you this. I'm trying to do my best to explain it as clearly as possible. I mean, I've even come up with the 5 pillars of decentralization. I mean, have you ever sort of like seen the article that I wrote? I'm not sure if I sent it to you or not.
Maybe I have. It sounds familiar. Just remind me.
Yeah. Okay. Well, basically there are 5 pillars to decentralization. So first of all, there was the dilution of the centralized starting point, which through proof of work has taken 10 years. Oh, and by the way, just in case you didn't know this, there was also the period of time that Craig had in mind for the dilution was from the 3rd of January 2009 up until the return of the keys to the Tulip Trust on the 1st of January 2020. So that was 11 years that Craig had already planned. And I realised this when I saw the date. I was like, he knew this all along. But then obviously the Tulip Trust was Bitcoin's insurance policy, because he absolutely fully intended to wipe away these shitcoins with that Tulip Trust. That was Bitcoin's insurance policy. And he would have come out, proved that he was Satoshi Nakamoto, said, right, I proved I'm Satoshi Nakamoto, I have the keys to the Tulip Trust, I can legitimately tell you categorically, all these shitcoins are absolutely genuinely shitcoins, therefore you're not going to have a problem with me when I wipe them out. I've tried to warn you, I've given you plenty of warnings, because I mean, what, he was... when did he... he was outed, in May 2015 by Wired magazine. But then, he started really educating people on it. Probably Arnhem was the most significant talk that he gave, where people were just like, hold on a minute, who's this guy? I've never heard these theories before on Bitcoin, but what he's talking about makes absolute perfect sense. For people who hadn't really thought of it as a commodity before. And what it truly represented. So, yeah, I've lost my train of thought there. I always get quite emotional when I'm talking about Bitcoin, because I'm just like, look, this thing needs to succeed. You need to understand it, but people just won't. Unfortunately, but my point is that we are absolutely fundamentally correct. There's just no way any of these shitcoins are going to survive due to and it's monetary theory, really. And money is a commodity. It has to be a commodity. Something that is common to everybody. Oh, that's what I was going to say. The 5 pillars of decentralization. Sorry, I went off on a tangent there. The 5 pillars were, first of all, it is accountability, which is why Craig designed Bitcoin as a chain of signatures, because each signature, holds everybody to account, which means that nobody can do anything on the network that nobody else would know about. So first of all, you need accountability. So that's why all these anonymous systems don't have any fundamental value as money, because the anonymous creator is the centralized authority that is not accountable to anybody. It's a centralized system. So they're out. The second one is obviously a locked protocol, so that it's permissionless, so that anyone and everybody can build on the system. So it's open. The other one is infinite scale. So in other words, effectively almost like infinite divisibility, because if there isn't new market constantly being created for miners to compete for, they would then just simply have to start taking market share off their competitors, which would eventually lead to centralization. So obviously, infinite scale and infinite divisibility is the third one. The fourth one is obviously proof of work, which is competition between those who economically sustain the network to make sure that it's truly decentralized. Because in proof of stake, you just simply get collusion, because there's no competition between those who economically sustain it. So it's the stakeholders who centralize the network. So again, that's out of the question. And then last of all but not least is the fixed supply. So even when George Gelder said to Craig, how come you fixed the supply and not the price? I was just like, well, if the supply is not fixed, it means that some central entity has control of it somewhere. Some central entity is producing it, and they can therefore be coerced and manipulated and whatever, and shut down and whatever. So having a fixed supply was absolutely fundamental as a key pillar of decentralization. So it was as well as the dilution of the centralized starting point, it's accountability, and that's why anybody who is going to attack the network, the first thing they're going to go for is the signatures, which is why Blockstream went for SegWit. But SegWit is no different from literally sort of ripping the signatures off a contract and then telling people, don't worry about it, we're going to store the contract in this filing cabinet and the signatures over there, but they're all in the same room, so that's all right. It's not all right. Those signatures have to be on the contract, or else that contract is null and void. So signatures, which is accountability, locked protocol, infinite scale, proof of work, which is competition, and fixed supply are those 5 pillars. And only Bitcoin, the way that Craig designed it, ticks all those boxes. It's the only one.
Yeah.
I even just managed to break it down into those 5 points, but I suppose it's getting people to listen to me, really. Nobody, if you're basically telling somebody that what they're heavily invested in and what they've got their hopes pinned on is fundamentally, worth jack shit. One, they don't want to hear it, and secondly, they don't want you telling everyone else either.
Yeah. Look, I agree with all those points. They're excellent points, and it makes sense to me. Although let's just think about the fixed supply one. It's not universally accepted that a fixed supply currency is the best. Another economist I really appreciate is Milton Friedman, and he anticipated Bitcoin, but he was a monetarist. He wasn't an Austrian economist, so he thought that money should increase its supply at a fixed amount every year. And he even said that it shouldn't be a group of people, it should be a computer. There's some algorithm that just has calculated a fixed set of inflation, and that just proceeds into whenever, forever. So, when you to look at Bitcoin, there's so much mixed up in Bitcoin. It's not just technology. There's law and there's economics, and all of those subjects, can be disputed. What's the best technology, or what's the best legal application or precedent that should follow, or what's the best economics system. So it seems I agree with everything you say, and the way Bitcoin works to me with a fixed supply is why I like it as money. And that's why CentB is a money app. We're not a data ledger app. I like money. I want to fix the money. I'm from Zimbabwe, and I know what it's. When money dies, it's a terrible thing, and so from a fixed supply point of view, and that's because I think Austrian economics, has it right. That's why I appreciate Bitcoin in that respect. But what's interesting is Craig isn't entirely. I don't know if I would call him an Austrian economist, though he probably is. But when he talks about Bitcoin as money and the current systems that we have today, the fiat systems, he's not as absolutist, I guess, around that fixed supply notion in terms of sound money. I very rarely hear him talking about that. So
Craig doesn't talk about any of those 5 pillars that I mentioned. Sometimes I feel a little bit guilty exposing it, because I think that's kind of like one of his little secrets that he doesn't want anybody to know. He knows that's what fundamentally gives Bitcoin its value over all other networks, and he just doesn't want anyone to know about it. Because he's the only one that's figured it out, apart from me.
I don't think he doesn't want anybody to know about it. I think if there's one thing we're sure of, that Craig wants everyone to understand Bitcoin completely. He's spent so much time trying to explain things. But
but the fundamentals of Bitcoin are fixed. So from his point, I would say that from his point of view, he's just like, well, we don't need to talk about that because it's fixed. There is no disputing it. So let's get on with building, creating, because the in terms of what gives Bitcoin its a fundamental value is those 5 pillars, but what gives it its technical value is speed, cost, and scale. And speed, cost, and scale never ever stops. That's where there's endless conversation, because it's always improving, always driving, always making it more efficient. So I guess from his point of view, but look, the fundamentals don't matter because they're already set in stone. That's it. You can't dispute it. But in terms of what Milton Friedman said about their how you're having money being constantly created, he's not thinking of money in terms of a commodity. You can't have a constant supply of gold, but you can just simply have gold, obviously, being mined. But because gold is a metal, it can be infinitely divided. Because you can always divide it by 2, always. And that's effectively what Bitcoin is as a fixed supply. It's a digital commodity. And what better commodity to be able to divide than a digital one? Literally, it's the easiest. It's the easiest commodity to divide in the world.
But Bitcoin isn't infinitely divisible. We go down to the Satoshi, and that's it.
But did you know that a Bitcoin can actually be divided by 16 or more decimal places?
No, I didn't know that.
You learn something new every day. Guess where I learned that from?
Where?
Well, who do you think I got it from?
Craig?
Yeah. He created it.
Okay, you're going to have to point that to me. I need to see that. As far as I know, he's pretty fixed on there being an indivisible Satoshi.
Well, I wrote to him and I said, look,
okay.
Because when you look at the value, when you look at the market that the Bitcoin is going for, it's all derivatives. And the derivatives market alone is estimated to be between $800 and $1 quadrillion. And that alone puts Bitcoin at a value at $40 million each. So I said to him, look, when Bitcoin is $40 million each, we can no longer get microtransactions if it's only divided by 100 million bits. And he just said, easily fixed. Bitcoin can be divided by 16 or more decimal places. I was just like, that's the answer I was looking for.
Yeah, because that is an idea that I see often in crypto and BTC, that they talk about that eventually coming to pass, where they have to divide Satoshis. Well, anyway, that's interesting. I'll check. Yeah, I mean, it's a system that it resonates with me. Although what you said there, the pillars of Bitcoin, I think that it's a great summary, and why Bitcoin BSV will succeed. It has all those elements.
Oh yeah. Can we just talk quickly about? I've just brought a picture up here of you and what's her name? Eva Kalele. Is that how you pronounce her name? Was that at Vienna as well?
I'm not sure. Was it a big opulent ballroom?
Yes.
That could have been, or Berlin perhaps.
Oh really?
It was somewhere at one of those, I think. Yeah.
It looks amazing.
That was another blockchain energy kind of conference. She's very interested in that sort of stuff.
Right. And the last one, I saw a picture of you doing a TED talk. Let me think. It seemed great. Yeah, TED. Is it Lausanne? How do you pronounce that?
Lausanne in Switzerland.
Oh, Lausanne. So it says here, come and see me speak at TED Lausanne in April about the virtues of digital currencies. Great stuff. How did that go?
Is
it still on? Can we still see it? Is it on YouTube somewhere?
Yeah, just Gamaroff TEDx on YouTube. That was the point of that talk was, at that stage, Bitcoin was had a really bad name. I think everybody was talking about Silk Road and money laundering, and it seemed that people were now focusing on the bad parts of Bitcoin. It was becoming more known, and there was more noise about all the illegal stuff that could take place on Bitcoin. And I just, when they asked me to do that talk, I really wanted to just paint a picture about why Bitcoin is good, and it's a virtuous thing, and how it can help people, and why it's something that even though everything that was up to that point was kind of negative, I wanted to have put a good positive perspective on things. So when they asked me to do the talk, I wanted to just talk about all the great things that could happen, that you could use Bitcoin for. How it could help the unbanked people, and it could allow people to move money cross border and all those sorts of things. So I was originally intending just talking about all its positive use cases, but they didn't really want that. I think when it comes to TEDx, and they always like personal stories, and so they spent time with me digging into my life and background, and trying to figure out why did I get into Bitcoin, and why was I interested in these things. So it's less of a technical talk. It's a personal story about me coming to Bitcoin and why I think it's great. And also it involved a project that I was working on at the time, which was how people could donate electricity to little African schools using Bitcoin. So that's what the story is, really. It's about that project and how Bitcoin could reach out and touch people's lives from around the world. So that's what that talk was all about.
Gotcha. And just going back to CentBee just briefly, when was it you started CentBee? Was this like when you first got into Bitcoin, or was it an idea that you had later?
No. Well, look, I've been wanting to build CentBee for years and years and years. My first startup that I created around Bitcoin was called Ban Ki-moon, which was a blockchain advisory company.
Oh, okay.
There was very little understanding around Bitcoin. It was probably around 2014 or 2015, and so I thought, look, I wanted to start a company building Bitcoin tech. I wanted to actually carry on building the smart grid Bitcoin projects, and so I founded a Ban Ki-moon, which ultimately became an advisory and consulting company.
Oh, okay.
And I ended up doing a lot of work and workshops with governments and central banks and law enforcement agencies and all kinds of industries, media companies, energy companies, financial banks. So spent a few years just explaining Bitcoin, what it could be used for, and then also developing some projects. I hate to say it, but did some work with Ripple and some other blockchains. But I always wanted to build a Bitcoin wallet that my mom could use, or that people that I was surrounded with could use. And in those days, there were a couple Bitcoin wallets, but they've never really been fun to use or easy to use. And so I had this idea of having a Bitcoin wallet where you could at those days, because I was so involved in the electricity industry, I wanted people to be able to buy electricity on their mobile phone using Bitcoin, and then do other things, buy Uber or something. And so a couple of years later, I just thought, okay, that's it. I'm going to do this, and started building CentBee, the version 1. And then about a year later,
when was this? What year was that?
This was probably about 2016.
Okay.
Maybe.
Right.
And then met my co-founder Angus Brown at a conference. He was I really didn't know him, but he started a business in South Africa, which is still going. And it was 2000 that he started the business. It was called eBucks, which was a digital currency company. It was connected to a bank. There was a major bank here, First National Bank. And he created a digital currency that was linked to a bank account and that you could use. And that was in 2000, so 21 years ago. Wow. And at this conference, I showed him CentBee, and he was keen to start off on that. So we started CentBee probably around 2017, I'm not sure if it was the beginning or the end, and we've been building it since. But
was that before or after the initial BCH split, August 1st,
Before.
2017? Oh, okay, right.
Yes. No, that was before. In fact, it was before, and that's when the Bitcoin price was starting to go up, and the fees were getting really high, and we had a bit of a crisis because we wanted people to use Bitcoin as a payment, to be able to buy a cup of coffee and little small value transactions, but the fees were going really high. And I have to admit, I don't feel proud of this, but we were moving over to Litecoin because Litecoin fees were cheap because BTC was dead, it had died.
Yeah.
And then thank goodness the BCH guys just managed to do it. They forked Bitcoin. I mean, none of us thought that could ever happen. I think the world thought Bitcoin would die the day it forked, and amazingly, Bitcoin Cash survived. And so we had to do some, we obviously made Senpi a Bitcoin Cash wallet, and that upset a lot of people. And then we started working with Bitcoin Cash, and then of course that happened again, when BCH and BSV split. So again, we had to change Senpi and get a lot of customers annoyed with us because now, they thought we had scammed them.
So what were you following the protocol, or were you just following the scaling? I mean, because I swear what BCH split because of the scaling debate, and then there was the other, obviously the hash war split, and again that was to do with scaling, but Roger Ver and his mates were still saying, oh, we'll scale, but we'll scale at a later date, and me personally, I was just like, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard, because money, in terms of having value that you're transferring, you don't accept a medium of exchange on the premise of something that it might do. Oh, it might be able to do this in the future, therefore it might have value. I was like, no, you scale it as quickly as you possibly can, which is what Craig was advertising for, advocating for. And again, that was one of the things that just made me realize it's Bitcoin is BSV. Everything that Craig was saying, I mean, I can't remember when I first thought it was Craig, actually. In fact, I think I remember when I remember looking at CoinMarketCap once, and there was Bitcoin red, Bitcoin blue, Bitcoin yellow, Bitcoin green, Bitcoin platinum, Bitcoin gold, Bitcoin atomic, Bitcoin price, and I was just like, what is this? I was like, this is absolutely insane. Like, I remember looking at it thinking, there's something not right here. What's going on? And then I heard Craig in an interview, again with one of his Craigisms, he just said, oh, they're trying to dilute the name. And I was like, oh, this guy knows exactly what they're trying to do. He has absolutely nailed it. And that's when I started paying more attention to him, because I realized that he understood absolutely, clear as day what was going on. And then I kind of followed him more and more, and he was like, hold on a minute. Actually, I agree with what he's saying about the economics. I agree with what he's saying about holding, governments to account. Because if you create a system that enables criminality, the government are going to be the first organization to use it because they want to do stuff and get away with stuff. That's the last thing you want to create. If you're anti-government, what you want is to create something that holds them to account, so that they can't get away with all the things that you are detesting them for. How did you make your decision on Bitcoin being BSV?
Well, there were two hats I was wearing. The first, obviously, was that we were trying to build a payment wallet, so it mattered that transactions were cheap, and of course, what also mattered was that it was a currency that was liquid enough so that we could convert the Bitcoin into local currency for our merchants and so on. So, we wanted to have a currency that was cheap and was liquid. Now, that's the first hat. And that's why we're wearing that hat. When it came down to it, if Litecoin was going to serve that purpose, then we were that's what we were going to use. So even though I'm very fixed and tied to Bitcoin, it's what I've known from the beginning, and I've always just wanted there to be Bitcoin. But as a business, doing payments, it came to whatever worked and whatever was cheap. But the other hat was from the technology side of things. I'm a software engineer, and so as I said earlier, stable protocols are so important if you want a protocol to be adopted and for businesses to use it. And especially when you start realizing that it's not just, Bitcoin isn't just a belief system, which a lot of BTC people will try and sell you, that there's a sort of collective delusion that every token has value and therefore people will accept it as money. It's just such
like fiat currency.
It's
people believe it, therefore it is.
Yeah. So the stable protocol is, we want people to use Bitcoin. We want there to be a natural demand for Bitcoin as a utility. Without that demand, it's no matter how much you brainwash people, there is no fundamental value to your token. So we need that stable protocol so we can have adoption, from businesses who use it as a utility and therefore create a natural demand for the token. So that is a very important thing. And when Bitcoin Cash split, the idea was that it was going to go back to Satoshi's vision of Bitcoin. None of us, when Bitcoin Cash appeared, thought that it was then going to potentially fork again. The idea was that finally we freed ourselves from the BTC way of thinking, and we're now going to go back to Satoshi's vision. So BCH in a way was the first reversion back to Bitcoin. And of course, there were still groups, Roger and Amaury Sachet and those guys who just thought, no, it's technology and it's anarchy, and don't want what Craig wants, which is legality and those things. So as a business, again, we have to make a choice that says, what crypto is legal. We try very hard with our regulators to show them that Bitcoin is traceable, and we can do audits, and we can do anti-money laundering. We can tie all the addresses to an individual whose identity we know. So that's very important as well in terms of the stable protocol, and not having anonymity features or obfuscation features or mixing features natively built into the protocol. So ultimately, even if I wasn't if I wasn't tied to the Bitcoin brand, or had a history defending Bitcoin, or trying to, even if none of that happened and I didn't know about Craig, or Craig hadn't appeared, or ultimately as a business, you naturally get pushed into Bitcoin SV because everything else pushes you away. So that's the beauty of Bitcoin SV. It's something that whether you like it or not, you will end up on, because as we said earlier, ticks all the regulatory boxes, as well as the stable protocol box and those pillars you mentioned. I mean, all those pillars, those they're like gravity wells. Try and swim away, but you will eventually come to that center of gravity. So that's the process now that the world is on. It's all of us, are slowly falling into that black hole, that Bitcoin. That's the true Bitcoin black hole, not as Max Kaiser calls it, the Bitcoin black hole.
Yeah, well, I mean, from my business background, I also realized that having legal recourse in a trade was absolutely fundamental to the utility of a medium of exchange. So because in business, the first thing you do is you transact the medium of exchange first, and then you get the good or service in return. So that's why, I realized Lightning Network wasn't going to work, because what gives Bitcoin value is the fact that the data is immutable. If you can't send somebody an email and say, oh, here's $10, because that email can be deleted. The data has no value. Whereas with Bitcoin, it's that immutability that actually gives it value. So I was just like, there's the value, which means Lightning Network is an absolute complete and utter waste of time. But in terms of having legal recourse, you need to be able to prove that you have sent that money to somebody, and therefore you, one, have the expectation of the good or service, and you can also prove that you've made the transaction. Whereas if something is anonymous, first of all, in terms of BTC, there is no expectation of the good or service, because you haven't sent anything that's got any fundamental value. You've just simply sent data that can just simply be lost, cracked, hacked, altered, changed, and deleted. So that's not worth anything. So that's where BTC is completely out of the problem, and it can't scale. And then with BCH, I was just like, you can't prove that you've sent the transaction, and the person who received it can't even prove they received it from you. Because they are obfuscating it, and they are mixing it using coin joins and all this kind of stuff. And I was just like, business is never going to use that, because having legal recourse, as in trust in the money that you can get it back should somebody run off with it, is absolutely crucial for global trade and international commerce. And none of these shitcoiners get this. When I sort of, I suppose, in a way, I would very much like to have a debate with a shitcoiner, because I could literally just, I've got an answer for everything. Like their entire philosophy is completely flawed, completely flawed.
Yes. I've had lots of debates with shitcoiners, and some that you might know, like Tone Vase or Samson Mo,
yeah, I know.
And or even one, I don't know if it's still online, but it was when Bitcoin Cash had just split off, and I don't know if you heard of a guy called Trace Mayer.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. I always keep my way to the grindstone. I know these people.
Yes, so I had a conversation with him, which I think is still online, and but you can see where it goes. It stops being an academic or intellectual argument, and it just becomes like
Aussie bad man.
It just turns ugly.
Oh my goodness me! Oh, that sounds hilarious. So, since we last spoke, any updates on the CentBee app? I know. I think since we last spoke, CentBee has now got pay mails, so you can have your pay mail at centbee.com.
Yes.
And also the CentBee wallet, for anybody listening who doesn't know or hasn't used it before, has got an added layer of security in the wallet, in that it requires a second PIN number, which I think is a fantastic idea. So effectively, it just means there's another layer. Somebody can't just steal your phone after you've opened up your phone with your PIN number. You need another PIN number to get into CentBee, which I think is great. Any other sort of updates to the wallet that you've done since then?
Yes, well, you mentioned Paymail. So what we have is unique to CentBee. It's something called personal Paymail, where you can put your own email address into CentBee, and that becomes your Paymail. So instead of being Satoshi at CentBee, you can be at Toshi.com or something.
Oh, brilliant.
So that you can do. It's just a bit of a setup. You just have to. We've got a little bit of a guide where you can. If you have access to your domain, you can just do some config settings, and then you automatically have your own email address, your personal email address, private email address, which can become a Paymail inside CentBee Wallet.
Oh, fantastic.
We've also about to roll out our international KYC process. That's important so that people around the world can verify identity. This is a necessary thing. All wallets are going to have to do this at some point. There are regulations coming down from everybody. There's an organization called the Financial Action Task Force, which is a global body that is going to require even non-custodial wallets to know who their customers are. So we're going to be rolling that out. Now, that might seem like not much of a feature, but once that's done, then opening up to places like Mexico become a lot easier. We will be putting in BuyBSV, Coinify, which is same as BuyBSV, so people internationally can buy Bitcoin. We're continuing to roll out value-added services to some countries that we now are supporting, South Africa being one and Mozambique next. But once our international KYC gets going, then we do want to do the same thing we'll probably start in Europe, in some European countries, but Asia is very cool for us. Japan, China, unfortunately, and India are a little bit more locked down in terms of crypto rules. So, we might take a bit longer to get there. But as soon as the KYC stuff is rolled out, it makes it a lot easier for us to now add top-up options into Sempi Wallet, and then of course spend options. Also, we've got a bank withdrawal, so you can now withdraw your BSV directly into a bank account, and
wow.
that's also something that will be available. Certainly, I mean, the UK, I mean, those countries will be activating first, but thinking about the Americas and Asia is always kind of in the front of our minds, so maybe that'll happen too. Let me think what else. There's some other little tweaks on the receive screen where you can show your QR code or your address. You'll be able to put in an amount, so it kind of becomes like an invoicing system. You can actually receive payments that way. So we'll have that out. And a couple other things that I can't really think of right now, but keep following us on Twitter. We're not very noisy on Twitter. We're not really big on social networks and media. We like to use our in-app notification system. So look out for in-app notifications for make sure they're switched on, so you can be alerted when new features come along. And then, of course, we know we've got our international cross-border remittance system going on. We've got another app which is not a Bitcoin app. It's called Minute Money, but it uses Bitcoin to do cross-border remit, and that's we're focusing on African corridors for now. But we're going to be putting that into Sempi Wallet too, so you'll be able to send money into bank accounts in other countries. So it'll kind of be like a remittance system within Sempi Wallet. And so amazing. The reason why we have those two apps is because we have a lot of users who don't know about Bitcoin and don't want to know about it. It's too scary for them. So we just use Bitcoin in the background for the Minute Money users. But Sempi Wallet, of course, is always going to be a Bitcoin wallet. We're not really keen on stable coins at this stage, and we're not going to be thinking about tokens or anything right now. We're just a plain and simple money wallet making payments. And until things change, until there's a stable coin that people use or trust. Look, we're not opposed to the idea of stable coins, nor even central bank digital currencies. Actually, well, philosophically, I am opposed to central bank digital currencies. Yeah. But if it becomes, just something that the world uses and that's how it is, and BSV is not used as cash, which I hope that doesn't happen. I really love Bitcoin and I want people to use Bitcoin as cash. But if it so ever happens that that CBDs, central bank digital currencies, become prolific, we might consider that.
They can't become prolific because they're not a commodity. They have no fundamental value.
Yeah, true. But the problem is, when government decides something is legal tender, we just have to follow along.
Well, that's the whole point. It's kind of like Bitcoin being a commodity. It fits all the it complies with all the CFTC regulations as a commodity, and also it's the only thing. Well, in terms of the commodity is immutable. It's data sovereignty and monetary sovereignty. So if for the first time ever, if you upload something to the internet, you're effectively uploading it to a corporate server who then own that data and can just simply delete everything on it, including your profile. Whereas now everything that you upload onto the Bitcoin network is yours because it's a diluted, distributed, decentralized network. So you're paying the miners to process your data to upload it onto this immutable single ledger where nobody controls it. So that's effectively the commodity, which is effectively data sovereignty is the most valuable commodity on Earth, which is why Bitcoin will become the most valuable thing on Earth.
I hope so.
Oh yeah, it will definitely happen. I mean, it's amazing. There was one last thing I wanted to ask. Oh, that was it. So you were talking about having Sempi being able to deposit money into bank accounts. Have you ever used Gravity via Bitstocks?
Yes, well, I don't use it a lot. I have looked at it, and in fact, I had a few more than one chat to Mike Hudson about doing integration with Gravity.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
So that they can become our local partner there in the UK and some of the European countries they support. So, we're still keen on that. And I mean, that's what it takes. It takes good partners out there, and the BitStocks guys are really great. So we hope we can start with that.
Well,
soon.
the on ramping that they have, I mean, literally, it's the best on ramping I've ever used. It's phenomenal, and like so many people are saying, well, when they come over from another country where they don't have it, they're just like, this is absolutely phenomenal. Like, why can't we get this? So is that something that you would ever think about, maybe partnering or integrating in South Africa?
Sure.
Would that be possible?
Absolutely, yes. Anything that will make it easier for our users to get into Bitcoin and get out as quickly as possible. We like that idea of people not holding on to their Bitcoin. We want them to get it and spend it as quick as possible. So if those sorts of processes, like the ones Gravity have in place, help, then certainly we want to look at those.
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember who it was that mentioned the other day. They were saying basically because obviously in America, Coinbase doesn't allow people to purchase Bitcoin, as in like BSV, and also Coinify. A lot of people have had issues trying to use buybsv.com because of Coinify preventing payments with credit cards and other things because they obviously know they're buying Bitcoin with it, so which is kind of like MasterCard purposely investing in Blockstream because they don't want Bitcoin to be used. So that's kind of like a bit of a hurdle. But Gravity is just, I think if Gravity could be integrated somehow with all, various companies like yourselves in different areas of the world, so they could just literally buy it instantly, it would just be amazing. And again, I mean, the fees are so low, purchase is instant. It's just it's custodial, but it's just brilliant. I mean, I guess one of the reasons why they aren't in other countries further afield is due to regulation, and they would need an office of some sort to register with local regulators, in order to make sure it complied. But if they could just partner with companies like yourself, that would be a much easier way around it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's certainly going to happen. That's just the nature of how these things work. So it's great having these guys out there, these partners out there that every one of them we look at and certainly want to keep the friendships going, because I have no doubt we'll be doing business, and that's the idea, is to open up Bitcoin to the world, and especially if it's multiple countries. That's the beauty of Bitcoin, really. It's sending small amounts, cross-border, making payments. I mean, that's what it's all about. Well, at least it is for CentB. Of course, others who are more focused on the data aspect and the ledger aspect, that's another whole story.
Well, all about ding and dongs.
Yeah.
Right, well, Lorien, I can see we've actually been going for 1 hour 42 minutes. It's I have to say, thank you very much for coming on. I really thoroughly appreciate this. Obviously, just keeping in touch and just generally having a chat and chill over biscuits and coffee and stuff. And if Death by Coffee want to send me another bag of beans over, that would be greatly appreciated.
Yes, I'll have to forward this video to them.
All right, super. Right, well, I'll as Captain Bitcoin would normally say, press the red button and let you go. But thanks very much for coming on and having the chat. It's been great, and I'll share this video out. I'll put it on Streamanity, then I'll release it on YouTube a week later, and then hopefully we'll get some inquiries about CentB and more people signing up. Great, thanks, and thanks Satoshi. Thanks for to keep doing what you're doing. It's really great. It's an important contribution to the space, getting the right message out there. So thanks for everything you do too. Well, tell you what I'll do is I'll send you the message that Craig sent me about this 16 decimal places and more, because obviously that's quite an important bit. And again, if you any contacts that you've got that you think would benefit coming on my show for a chat over Bitcoin biscuits and coffee, just let me know. That would be greatly appreciated as well. Will do. All right. Thank you very much. Enjoy your holiday.
Thank you very much.
All right. See
Enjoy
you
your
later.
day.
Thanks very much. All right.
Cheers.
Bye. Wow. There we go, people. What a fantastic first episode of Bitcoin, Biscuits, and Coffee. Oh, hope you all enjoyed that. Shout out to everybody in the chat box. Good chat going on there. Starting from the top, we've got KP Dad on there. Oxono, the Grandad 13. Just going down. Griggsy in there. Super stuff. Who else did I see? Did I see any other names? Oh, I think that's it. There we go. Yeah, so I'm still buzzing. I'm going to get myself another coffee. It's a beautiful blue sky day over where I'm now. So I'm going to go and sit outside and chill for a bit. There's still a bit of news to report on. I might have to do that a bit later because I feel like chilling out for a while. But that was great. So yeah, guys, what I'll do is I will upload this video onto YouTube, Streamanity. I'll probably put this on there for like $2. So if you want to share this out, remember to use the 10% revenue share tab. I'll put it on Streamanity for a week, and then the usual I'll release it on YouTube after a week's time. So yeah, thanks for joining me. Hope you enjoyed this first episode of Bitcoin, Biscuits, and Coffee, and we will catch you later. See you then. Get paid for posting your pics on Relica. Download the app now at www.getrelica.com. Get your tweet etched on Twitch, forever on the Bitcoin blockchain. Do it today at www.jointwitch.com. BuyBSV.live, the best place to buy Bitcoin SV online. Support independent content creators on micropayment platforms such as Streamanity, Twitch, and Relica. We should profit from our data, not the large corporations who track, monitor, and sell it. If you enjoy the Bitcoin content that I produce, please support me by heading over to www.satoshi.tv, where you can keep up to date with all the latest news, gossip, and content as it's created. Thanks very much. To get started in Bitcoin, go to freebsv.com, where you can claim your free Bitcoin. Then head over to Twitter and follow @IamSatoshi, where you can take part in his very generous and world famous free giveaways. The future of advertising meets the power of Bitcoin at Tonic Pow. Get paid for posting advertising campaigns to your social media profiles. Go to www.tonicpowads.com.